Hey everybody, welcome to the In All Things podcast. It's time to see God in everything. Hello everybody, welcome to a brand new episode of the In All Things podcast. My name is Mitch Frost and I am here joined as usual by Pastor Steve Markle. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. Good. How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah.
You sure you're good?
I am.
You always say good, so I just want to make sure.
Well, you do too.
Well, sometimes. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm tired.
Yeah, it's either tired or good.
You're like, good, sir. How are you?
Yeah, I feel good this
Okay,
morning. Yeah,
good.
ready to go.
Good.
Yep.
Yeah, I feel good. I don't like this weather. A lot of rain. It's kind of overcast.
Yeah.
It's kind of like
It was a
missing
rainy
the sun
weekend.
a little bit.
That's all right.
But we are getting cooler weather, and I am on board for that.
We're close.
I'm very excited for fall. I'm a big fall fan.
I am too.
So.
Yeah.
Anyway, anything exciting happened this past week or weekend? I'm trying to think through the events in our lives or our world.
Yeah, I mean,
what do you got?
my weekend was pretty busy. My son had a doubleheader with his fall baseball program that we have, and he got injured on the very first play.
Perfect.
Basically, he walked and stole second and pulled a hamstring, actually a little worse than a pull. So now he's out for like 12 weeks. So his season is over, which is awesome. At least it's better that it's the fall than in the spring. But anyway, that happened on Saturday. We got rained on, and that was fun. Friday, went to a Clippers game. Somebody had given me tickets months ago. Really nice seats and everything. And little did I know there would be a celebrity there and some big Office fan. So Meredith Palmer, her name from The Office, she was there. And the big decision was whether to get in the line to get a picture taken with her, but we did.
Yeah, you
And
did.
So that's cool.
It's a cool picture.
Yeah, got a picture with.
You said she was
celebrity.
nice and funny.
She was very
and
funny
cool
and nice, cool.
Yeah.
She was really cool. Not good at throwing out the first pitch. It was really bad.
That's funny.
I have it on video. I was like, oh, she was terrible. She went
funny.
underhand and it basically rolled it to the catcher. But anyway, that was fun.
That's fun.
But yeah, how about you? What was your weekend all about?
Friday, I went to a yearly event that the Brock Strong Foundation has called the Green Tie event. It's a big fundraiser. Being on the board with Brock Strong, that's an event that we've gone to. It's our second time going. It was a lot of fun. Good food.
Yeah.
And they did this thing where they do room makeovers. And so it cost $5,000 to do one room. And so they did like a live donation with like a bar and everything. And we filled it up pretty quickly. So that was really, really cool.
That was cool.
But yeah, that was fun Friday. Saturday was pretty chill. Just hung out with some friends. That's it. Went to Easton. That was cool.
That's cool.
And then yesterday was Sunday. In our close Ohio world, there was a shooting at a football game. So there is that,
not far from
which
here.
is very unfortunate. From what I've heard, I don't know if you've heard anything different. From what I've heard, it was there's no injuries still.
Right.
Nobody got shot, but there was multiple shots fired, and it sounds like it was either I heard under the stands, but I don't know if that's true.
I heard it wasn't inside the stadium area. It was
Right
inside
outside.
the fence. But yeah.
Either way. Not
And,
fun.
Yeah,
and
it sounded like it wasn't related to anybody in the game or anybody.
Right, sure.
Like it was but that kind of stuff.
Scary.
Just then they empty everybody out. Yeah.
I mean, for students there, for being the first football game of the season, for freshmen, for all these things, it's just you got to think of it. It's just like it's very scary.
Right. Do you want your kid to go to a football game now?
Right. So that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Trying to think if there's anything else like news-wise like that has happened recently. I don't think so.
No. Sunday was a good day then. Here, getting to that. Sunday morning was awesome. We had you could feel the crowd coming back now that school's in session. So that was cool. Started off a new series and had new guest, and we had Kona Ice. So a lot of good. And then you had Sunday night and another great crowd
it
of
was a great
students.
night. Yeah.
So
it was it's a pretty crowded night. We had one of our high school guys preach, which was really cool.
Right.
First time that we've
How did
done
John
that.
do?
Really good. Yeah. Shout out John. Yeah, he came to me a couple months ago and just said, hey, I want to preach. I've gotten to preach a couple times at my church. He goes to a different church with his family, and he was like, I want to do it sometime at the well. And so we kind of sat down and kind of planned it out, and yeah, it was cool.
Right.
It was cool to see somebody that I've gotten to minister to for about a year now. He's only been coming for about a year. But to have him preach to students was pretty cool. Room was silent, people were listening, and
That's
just
awesome.
to hear some of the guys talk to him afterwards was pretty cool.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So yeah, good stuff. Steve, I have a question.
Okay.
Just because I wanted to do something different.
Okay.
Tell me something about yourself that you've never shared on this podcast. Ready, go.
Well, that's wow. A lot of preparation.
Just to get started here.
Oh, just
Putting you on the spot.
some random
Yeah,
thing
anything, whatever you want.
about myself that I've never.
I wrote mine down. but I'm the one who
Yeah, well,
prepares
that's
for
really,
this,
why don't
so-
you go first? then?
Okay, I have a scar right here on my forehead.
Mhm.
I had stitches, 11 stitches right here. When I go like this, you can see it.
Okay.
It's right here on the side.
Yeah.
And I ran into a brick wall when I was a kid. My brothers had me sprinting around the basement. We were playing this game. I slipped and fell on the carpet, went straight into a brick wall, blood everywhere, 11
Okay.
stitches, and I have a scar on my forehead.
Wow.
Not a lot of people notice that.
Do you? I mean, I hate to copy you, but you made me think. I have a scar right here. If
Oh,
you see it
wow.
in my eyebrow,
Hmm.
there's 5. I had 5 or 7 stitches there, but I remember it clearly. I was probably 8, and my mom and dad had gone out to dinner with people, and we had babysitter, and we were playing hide and seek in the house, and I started backing down a hallway, and then I started to turn around the run, and it was right on the corner of the wall, and my head hit right there, and the piece of skin came off. It was right there, but the blood was gushing. And I remember this is like a 16-year-old girl that's watching us, and she lived down the street. She called her dad. He came down. I'm laying there on the bed, and this, cloth's on my head. And I remember thinking as an 8-year-old kid, I think I'm dying. I think I'm going to die.
This is it.
This is it, because the blood was all over the place. And I remember that. That was just that awful, awful feeling. So
I
yeah,
don't know if I've had stitches since then.
I think that's my
I
only
don't think I
stitches.
have.
Yeah. I
I've
think
had
that's my
lots of
only-
injuries, but that's
Right.
my one time getting stitches, I think.
Yeah. So
Anyway.
Stitches story. Okay. That's
Yeah,
a story.
there you go.
Stitches.
So we started a brand new series yesterday at the church. You kind of said that already. And so I thought today would be interesting if we just spent a couple minutes, a little bit here, just talking about that series, where it came from, why we're doing it, and maybe some of the hopes and the dreams that you have for Sycamore Creek Church coming out of a series like this. And when you announced, I think it was probably 2 or 3 weeks ago at this point, that this was going to be the next series. There was an announcement, there was something said, and maybe in the middle of one of your messages you just said, hey,
Sure.
we're going to do decision fatigue next time.
Right.
And I remember my wife leaning over to me in the middle of the message, and she's like, was that the next series that we're doing? I was like, yeah. She's like, that's like a big conversation in the world of education right now. Like so many teachers, she's like, my staff, my principal, like we're talking about this right now. And she's like, and I thought it was just like isolated to education, but she was like, I'm so excited for this series.
Well, that's good.
And so I don't know if you've heard that from other people. And I know you kind of referenced at the beginning of the message, you said something about somebody's talking about decision fatigue. I forget exactly what it was. But this is a thing. This is kind of where we are.
It's funny because your wife, Lex, she saw the thing on the wall. I have a bulletin board in my office that has upcoming series like layouts and what I'm planning to do. And she saw it a couple months ago, and she took a picture and sent it to me and said, this is going to be cool. And I'm excited about that. So anyway, I think, our last series, we had a message that was about Lot and his choices, Abraham and Lot and his choices, and how they led him in the wrong direction. And that may have been when I referenced what was coming, because the idea of decision fatigue goes back to this idea that we have so many decisions that are thrown at us every day, every second. We're making decisions. Some of them are just, we don't even think about them because it's just like what our body movements are like right now, our facial expressions, all that stuff. But that being said, we have so many more than we've ever had and lots of choices, and we're inundated with that. And I think, it's interesting, education system, I'm sure they're dealing with it all the time with students. And, I talk to some teachers who are like, it's so frustrating, the tension of them having their phones versus not having their phones in class. And now that my youngest is a high schooler, it's like, oh, we're allowed to have them with us all the time. As long as there's not teaching going on, we can be on there. But then there's so many choices of what they're doing with their time and all the things you can do. So, anyway, but getting back to the big point is the power of our decisions. Is like the decisions that we make determine the quality of our lives. And we are sitting here at this table today because of decisions that we've made in our lives and how those decisions have played out, right? And everything that anybody that's listening to this right now is doing is a result of a decision. Some have made a decision to listen to this, but you're sitting where you are, you're doing what you're doing while you're listening because of decisions you made in your life that have led you there. So it's so important. I mean, and I know when you think about younger people, obviously with students and young adults, it's even magnified because you're making decisions that can affect the rest of your life. But it even matters as you get into middle age and get into older age because you're affecting other people that are watching you, next generation. So anyway, I think there's so much to learn, so many principles, and I'm super excited. The feedback yesterday was really awesome. You know, like different series hit different people in different ways, but I think this one is going to hit everybody. And I had a lot of people telling me how excited they were yesterday from all different age ranges. So that's
I like that a lot. I think it's very important, and I think, you know, regardless of your job, if you're listening or watching, regardless of what you do for a living, or if you're a stay-at-home mom, stay-at-home dad, if you have a bunch of kids, if you're single, if you're whatever, you're making a lot of decisions all the time. So let's start with this little. I like putting you on the spot today. I don't know why. I'm just in the mood to do it.
Thank you.
And so, can you walk me through? It is when we're recording this. It is Monday, August 22nd at 9:58 a.m. Okay, what time did you wake up this morning?
6.
Okay, so you've been up for a couple hours.
Yeah.
I want you to walk me through, to the best of your ability, every decision you've made. Ready, go.
The ones that okay. So I woke up. Suddenly I was having a dream. I don't remember now what it was. I did when I woke up. I woke up and I thought, oh, I wonder if it's actually close to the time of my alarm going off, which I had set for 6:15. And I looked over at my clock and it said 5:54. I'm like, okay, this is not enough time to really go back into sleep. So I'm going to lay here until my alarm goes off, and then I'm going to get up. So I was laying there thinking I'm going to make the decision to lay here a little longer. Then when my alarm went off, I was like, I'm going to push snooze, but I'm going to get up before the second ring. And I started thinking I should probably change my sound because it's a duck quacking alarm, and I don't know that. I don't know how that happened.
Okay.
I had, you know how you have multiple alarms on your phone, and that one became this one today. Anyway, so I thought, all right, I need to change that probably because that's probably annoying to my wife. So as that thought went, and then then I heard her alarm go off. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. Mine's 6:15, hers was 6:20. I wonder, and then I started thinking, should I get up before, you know, it goes off again? So, you know, then should I go to the bathroom first if I'm going to get in her way of her, you know, timing? And then I thought, the decision is, do I go down and go downstairs do I start my coffee before I go to the bathroom, or do I go pick up my protein bar before, and then, you know, all those decisions about that. And then sitting there, do I turn on the TV to watch 15 minutes of news while I'm drinking my coffee and waking up before I go to the gym? Because I leave at 6:50 to go to the gym, you know, so those decisions. And then the decision to go back upstairs, brush my teeth before I go, after I finish my coffee, and then get in the car, and the decisions to what to listen to on the radio, because I'm going to listen to a podcast while I'm working out. Should I start that now, or should I just listen to the radio for the 7-minute drive to the gym? You know, get to the gym. On the way to the gym, you go to the gym at the same time. We're doing different routines, but I texted you because I was a few minutes late. Should I text him or not? Am I going to be that late? It's only going to be a couple minutes. Does it even matter? So those questions, you know, like this is what you're wanting.
Yeah, I mean, listen how this is going.
It's just like there's so many things. You go walk in the gym, you see the people that are working there that you see all the time. Should I say hello first, or should let them say hello and see if they're in the mood to talk? I don't know. Are you going to be in the mood to talk? Some mornings you want to talk. Some mornings it's like, don't talk.
Right.
I can tell, and I'm trying to figure that out. Like, so I'm thinking about that. Do I want to get on the treadmill or just start stretching and work out? As I'm stretching, are other people watching me? I wonder if I should stretch differently. Am I doing a good job of stretching? And I start thinking, what do I need to stretch? Am I going to work out that part of my body, so it doesn't really matter? Then it goes, so what machine am I going to do? What free weights am I going to do? Should I start here? Do I start here? And what's next? I mean, it's constant.
That's constant. Like, you just gave me like an hour of your day.
Right, and it's kind of frantic.
Over an hour.
Right, right? Yeah, I mean, then it just continues to it.
Yeah. So is it really much of a surprise that we are feeling fatigue when it comes to decisions?
No, I don't think so. I mean, and I don't think, I don't want to overplay like, oh, it's so hard for us today.
Sure.
Because like, you know, I think we can both say that we like the fact that we have so many choices. Even though when I grew up, I think, you know, because I'm 50 couple, it was easier in some ways because there was less choices, but I wouldn't want to go back to that. Like, I like the fact that there's not just ABC, NBC, and CBS. I like the fact that we can have this array of things for entertainment. I like the fact that there's so many more drink options when we go, to get a soft drink or a coffee or whatever. I like the fact that we have all these ways of shopping, all these ways of. I like the fact that we have all the apps on our phones and we can, on YouVersion, get every version of the Bible right there to read, compare, all that. So I like choices, but it is exhausting. So I don't know. I think it's a something we have to learn how to deal with better, because there's not going to be less.
Right. No, I don't think we're going to go that direction. I don't think we're going to go back to less decisions and less options.
Right.
So there is benefits to having an overload of decisions to make and an overload of choices. I mean, there is good to it. Like you just named a couple. There is, times and places we go to where it's like, oh, it's nice to be able to have unlimited options and I can choose whatever I want. Like that, there is times where that's good.
Right.
But there is times where it's like, whoa, this is a lot. There's a statistic that I hear so much in books and podcasts, and there's so many people talking about it, about how in the first 15 minutes that you and I are awake, we consume more information than people did 100 years ago in a month. I want you to think about that. First 15 minutes being awake. We are consuming, we're moving, we're thinking, we're processing more in the first 15 minutes than people 100 years ago did in a month.
That is crazy.
That's crazy.
That is crazy. I mean, because we have all the information.
Everything.
Computer in our pocket. So,
And even the things I think that we have to think about, right? I mean, there is some degree of like, even if I'm not actively holding my phone or looking at my phone, I'm probably thinking about who do I need to text, who I need to respond to, what I need to look at. Is there a new thing? Is there, like, I'm still thinking about
what's the news? What's going on in the world? What are my friends saying?
Right.
And I don't think anybody 100 years ago woke up thinking anything like that.
No. So it's just something to think about. I think that we are at a stage in 2022. Yet again, it's not going to change. It's not going to go backwards. But we are at a stage where we are a little bit overloaded of just information. We have to process more than people used to have to process, and we're just at the stage where there's always things, and we got to think, and we got to make decisions, we got to decide, we got to do something. Otherwise, we're just kind of robots.
That's why I do think we struggle sometimes with easy things, because we're. Like I made a comment, joke, whatever, yesterday about how our church staff, we struggle with deciding where to go to lunch. And sometimes it's just like, I think it would just be nice if it was already decided. Like it was just like put on the schedule. And then I've tried that too, and then people fight that. But whatever it is, I think we like the choices, but then we sometimes are so exhausted, we just wish somebody would make a choice for us.
Yeah. So, we've said it multiple times already, and we might say it at some point in this series at the church, that, we're not going to go back to a time of having less options. So really what it comes down to, I think, is we have to get better at filtering which decisions matter most.
Correct.
Is that true?
I would agree.
And so we need to get to a place where, in this podcast conversation, what we're doing here is really just setting up this series, I think. We're not going to get super deep into this idea here, because we're going to spend the month. How long is the series? It's
6
longer
weeks.
than a month. Yeah.
6 weeks.
We're going to spend the next 5 weeks, I guess, at this point in this series figuring out how to do this. And so I really just wanted to get like the conversation, the ball rolling on this. But yeah, I think it comes down to, we have to decide if we're faced with, what was the number, 35,000 decisions a day, roughly. If we're faced with that many decisions every day, some of them matter, some of them don't. Some of them are things we're actually processing, but some of them aren't, right? But we have to be able to have some kind of filter system on what decisions actually matter and what decisions, okay, whatever happens, right? And I don't know if you have any filters in place that you think of or you can think of on the spot here.
No, I think it's, it's outcomes. Like what we know, what difference does this outcome have? If I have a choice and it's A, B, or C, and none of them are going to be sinful outcomes, none of them are going to be life changing. I mean, it's like being able to be quick about that. I don't know. I don't think we should really overcomplicate this too much, because I think we all know, like McDonald's, Wendy's, Cane's, it doesn't matter.
No.
Like there's health choices obviously involved there, but that doesn't. None of them are healthy, right?
No.
So it's not really like that. It's not like whether we get up or not. We have to do that. It's not whether we go to work or not. It's not like the workout routines, all that kind of stuff. I think we all know those aren't the ones that we should belabor. It's the ones that affect our spiritual lives, the one that affects our family, that affect our relationships. And
what are some examples of decisions like that?
Well, I mean, how to respond to people. We talked a little bit about that, or I did yesterday, a little bit about how we respond to our children and to our spouses, to our coworkers, when our buttons are being pushed. We know that in our mind, we think, how do I handle this? Do I yell? Do I say something snarky? Do I give them the silent treatment? we have all these options that are on the table. And because we've used them before, we know which ones get certain responses. But we know, because in the same way that we're over inundated with choices, we're also over inundated with information and knowledge to know what is healthy. So most of us know the right things to do. We just make the wrong choices.
Yeah.
So what I'm hoping and praying for me and the church in this is that we start to make the healthy choices in those areas that matter the most, like relationships. Like, because we know, like I know, I mean, we've been friends for a while. I know times when, you know, we've had conflict and I've handled it in a way that is just kind of like not appropriate, or just, you know, kind of just, you know, ways that I would say aren't the healthiest, because just to, I don't know, get a reaction. Right. We do that with friends. We do that with spouses. We do that with
we've
our
all
kids.
done that. Yeah.
Right. We know that. And we like, that's not the healthy way.
Right.
And like, but we've grown, and, you know, in your marriage, you'll grow, in your relationships, you grow, and you figure out the healthier you are, the better those things are going to be. Right. So I think that's where we're going with that. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Is that
definitely.
what are you thinking?
No. Yeah. I think that's really good. And I think doing a 6-week series on decisions, right? You hope at the end of it that the church as a whole, and us even on staff and whoever, is going to make better decisions. And there is some, you know, some people are very theological and very philosophical, but there is a very practical side of the Bible, and there's a very practical side of faith. And I think the Bible does offer a ton of, you know, tips and tricks, I guess you could call it, guidelines to live by that are going to improve your health, whether that be mental, social, physical, relational, all these different types of health. And one of those things is making better decisions, and they're going to it's going to lead to better outcomes of all forms of life. You know, so I think it's a very real series. I think it's a very applicable series and conversation to have. And I wonder if it's one that gets had a lot in church circles. You know,
I don't know. I think we're being obviously very intentional about it. I think one of the things I said yesterday that I think it's important, maybe we should expound on it just a little bit, is this idea of we're all dealt a different hand. Like everybody in life doesn't get the same cards at the beginning. Like you're born into the family you're born into the social economic class that you're born into the state and the city and the country. All that is not something you chose. So there are certain benefits that we have from that. But what we need to do, no matter what we're given is to not play the victim.
Absolutely.
Like you've probably heard I heard it again on another podcast today, and I've heard speakers say it. I wrote it down, but it may not be your fault, but it is your responsibility. Yeah. Like there's just that. There's a lot of people that have like, well, I mean, I can't help the decisions that I've made because of all the things that have happened to me. No, you're responsible. You're responsible for your decisions, and it's not your fault what happened to you. And the situation that you're in is not your fault. Like even like we're responsible. I'm the pastor of the church. You're the student pastor. We have all these responsibilities. You may have some volunteers and some people that work with you that make mistakes. That's not your fault. But guess what? It's your responsibility to deal with them. Yeah, I may 100%. Have employees that work for the church and people that serve in the church that do things that I didn't tell them to do. I didn't train them to do, and they're not doing their job or their responsibility right. And it's not my fault, but it's my responsibility to fix it or to get it right or get things on the right track or to address it. And so I have to make those decisions in my life. You do as well. And I think that part of this series as we start is just taking responsibility. Like some people are just like, I'm just not going to take any.
Well, I think we live in a world where more and more you don't have to take responsibility. Right. I think you don't have to own up to what you do, and as long as you don't do anything too crazy. But like I think we live in a world where responsibility is just less and less needed and required. Yes. I think it's just like, hey,
it's like somebody else did this.
This is just the way I am. This is just who I am. Yeah, this is just how
you guys.
This is what I've been through. Like. You know, and I think that's very contradictory to the way that God wants us to live. I think we are responsible.
We are. We need to not skirt our responsibility.
100%.
You know what a parrot head is?
A parrot head?
Yeah.
I've heard it. I don't know if I can give you a definition.
I'd heard it before too, and I think if somebody gave me the clue, I would have gotten it. But you know who Jimmy Buffett is. So the Jimmy Buffett fan club, they're called parrot heads.
Okay.
Margaritaville. Yep. Anyway, bring it up because somebody after the service yesterday came up to me with a really great quote from one of Jimmy Buffett's songs. He's very quotable.
He is, yeah, very.
And I looked it up this morning, and he has a lot of great quotes, but he said, indecision may or may not be my problem. So there's like irony in that statement. And it's in one of his songs, I believe. This guy yesterday quoted, he's a parrot head. He quoted several Jimmy Buffett songs that really applied to the message.
Yeah.
So maybe we should do a series called Parrot Heads or something like that. But there's a lot there. But anyway, I think this whole I'm not going to make a decision. I'm not going to deal with this. That's not okay.
No,
that's not the answer. And I think we more and more, especially as followers of Christ, we need to take responsibility that God's given us seriously, because we have a chance to change the world, to impact the world. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, I think that's really good. I didn't even think we'd really go down that road, but I think that's a really important conversation to have as we begin this bigger conversation in our church of decisions. I do think we could all do a little bit better at taking responsibility for the things that we say and don't say, and the things that we choose, how we choose to react, and what we choose to post, and what we choose to like, and what we choose to comment on, and what we choose to do and not do, and how we choose to serve. And we could keep going down this.
Oh, I know.
These are all decisions, but we could keep going down this. But I just think we're really good at not taking responsibility. Well, so-and-so did this, or so-and-so, they don't like this. And like we're just so good at justifying not doing something or doing something because we don't want to take responsibility.
And it's not my fault. If I don't get involved, then it's not my fault.
And I just think when it comes down to it, the decisions you make, you are responsible for them. And I 100%. Think the more mature you are, the better grip you have on that. Yeah. Okay, the way I respond to somebody when I'm angry, when I'm emotional, when I'm tired, when I'm whatever, the more mature I am, I know that that's true, and I'm going to be better at taming my tongue and being slow and calming down and thinking through these things and making better decisions. I think it's all about maturity. I think this series really is about maturity of all kinds.
Right. And I alluded to it a little bit. It's like you're married, you're with your spouse a lot, and they're going to do things that get on your nerves. You're going to do things that get on their nerves. You know each other more and more. And like I said, Sherry and I have been married 32 years. And just like even on Saturday, I did this thing that I do. She knows, like a lot of times when we were going to a doubleheader baseball game for my son, Nick, and it was on the other side of town, 35 minutes away. I said, we're going to leave at this time, 1:15, I think it was, something like that. And she knows that usually means I'm going to be out at the car at 1:10. Well, my parents were riding with us. They got there early. I was out at the car 10 minutes. We were sitting in the van 10 minutes before the time I told her we were going to leave. And she comes out and she's like, I still have a few things to do. I was like, that's fine. And she was like, but you're all sitting in the car with the car running. And I was just like, this is bad. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't, because that just stressed her out. And she knows, and we didn't need to address it. We didn't need to do anything. Right. I should have, and it was more because, I had, I just want to make sure we get there early, all that kind of stuff. But anyway, it's like, I thought it was a 5-minute thing. Now it's a 10-minute thing with you. I'm like, I don't know. But what I'm saying is we chose not to escalate it into anything. It was just kind of like, okay. And there's just.
And I think there's a side to that too. And you can tell me if I'm wrong, but maybe we'll say marriage specifically for just a moment. You guys chose not to address it, not to escalate it, not to make it a thing.
Right.
Probably because you've been through it before.
Correct.
You've had stories and times where you've made a bad decision, or one of you has made an immature decision, and it's led to an explosion or a fight or a thing.
Right.
So now you're at this moment where maybe you're making a decision again, but you're not going to escalate it, and you're not going to dive into it. You're not going to unpack it because you've been through it before.
Right.
So there is some side of, I don't want to say benefit, but there is growth that comes from making bad decisions.
Learning from bad decisions, like not saying, well, you just need to relax.
Or not saying, hey, you just need to be perfect and never make bad decisions.
Right.
We're going to.
Correct. And so upcoming sermons in the series, I'm this week talking about temptation and going to look at the story of Joseph in the Old Testament. Love that story. It's going to be fun. And then you've got the next one on consistency. And one thing I said yesterday about consistency, it's not perfection. No, we are going to make bad decisions the rest of our lives. It's just about making less of them and less of the ones that impact so many areas of our lives. And like I said yesterday, it's not this idea that we can make a bad decision and it's just isolated. Sometimes, I mean, like we could both here tell stories of bad decisions we've made. And did we get away with it? I mean, it's hard to say. And like they impact us, but whatever. But like sometimes a bad decision we think it's isolated, and it can lead to more bad decisions.
Yeah.
And then before we
There's
know
a
it,
ripple effect for
there
sure.
is, like, so you just think it's just this one-time thing. It might be, but it might not be. So do you want to roll the dice on that and take chances that could hurt you long-term? I think that's where we're going, and I think it's going to be good. I think it's a lot. It's just so practical. And some people afterwards, like those examples were like my life. I'm like, well, yeah, they're all of our lives.
Yeah.
It's constant. The decisions, that we are faced with. It's funny. I don't know if this is a little diversion, but did you see Jared? He's over there. Did you see his post on Facebook last night about tipping?
No.
I was like,
oh, yes,
I
did.
love
Yeah.
that. I loved it
Yes,
because I was like, all right. So
I completely agree. By the way.
I know.
We've had this conversation in the office
the whole
before.
thing of now you pay with an iPad, and then they turn it around like you can finish it, and it gives you all the tipping options. And I commented there, and I was like, the decision of like, I know I get to be careful what I comment because I can offend somebody, and I'm who I am in my position. I can't just say whatever I feel and want sometimes. So I was like careful with my words, but I was like, we were at the Clippers game, and it's like we went to the concession multiple times, and it was like one time's to buy $5 water, so $5 bottle of water or $4, whatever it was, and they turn around. It's like play with your credit card, and the turn around it's like either 15, 18, or 20% tip. And there's no tip option. There's just other button. So you push the other button, then it says, what percentage do you want to give? So I have to put it in 0. And it's like this guilt thing that you're supposed to feel. I think all they did was grab a water and hand it to me. And then like somebody said in the comments, who gets that tip anyway? Like, is that actually going to the cashier? Or is that going, like, this is just, the world has gone crazy.
Well, let's just go ahead and clarify this on In All Things right now for all our listeners that get, what have we said before about, if you come to In All Things for your news, or then you're doing it wrong. Let's just say this, okay? Here's why you tip. Why you used to tip, I should say.
Yes.
Is because you would tip a server at a restaurant. From working in a restaurant industry, and I know you have too.
Yes.
The reason why you tip is because they don't get paid a lot per hour.
They don't get a minimum wage.
They make it off tips.
Correct.
People who work behind counters or just work at restaurants just making the food, they're making more than minimum wage, or at least minimum wage.
Right.
Servers don't.
Right.
So
exactly.
Like it's just it's so frustrating because the reason why tips were a thing was because you would tip somebody who wasn't. They would make $4 something an hour.
Absolutely.
I tipped, and I served, and that's why I made an hour. It was like $4.25.
Right.
So I needed tips.
Yes.
But then when I would work in the kitchen, I made like $10 an hour.
Right.
I'm
Which
not
at that point
dependent
in your
on
life,
tips.
that was
that was good.
I am more than happy, and I tip well in restaurants to the server.
100%. Yeah.
But this whole thing, and it happened with COVID, became intensified it, I guess.
And iPads and that form of checking out is more prevalent now. But
oh my goodness,
gosh.
it's like you can finish it. Like what? Why? And then you think, is everybody else tipping but me, or am I the bad guy?
I
that
feel
doesn't
no
want to tip?
guilt.
That's good. You and Jared both. I need to
not
get,
with that.
I just every time it's like, is somebody going to judge me and think I'm a jerk? Are they going to spit in my food? So it's like I want to do this after that I've gotten. Are they going to be? I don't know. I don't know what people are doing, but
man, we just went down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, but
there.
see, I just had to get that out.
No, that's relevant. That's good.
When I saw that post, I was like, decision whether or not, but it's that decision right
no
then.
Tips.
15%, 20%, like
that's a decision. Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
No, I got to follow this trail, and every time
I'm feeling decision fatigue by the tip thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that one of those ones. I've honestly, there's a few times I've given a tip, and I'm like, why did I just do that?
Yeah.
Like, that was stupid.
Yeah.
They didn't do anything except hand me my stuff. Like, they deserve a tip for that. Anyway.
Let's end with this.
That's good.
So let's end with like our landing that we always end with. How can God be seen in all the 35,000 little decisions that we make every day? How can we start making better decisions starting right now, today, whenever they're listening to this podcast, watching this podcast? What can we do, a real step forward to make better decisions? So let's start with, how can God be seen in all the little mundane decisions all the time?
Yeah. Well, I mean, every little decision adds up, of course, and creates who we are. But I still don't think that's the focus where we're trying to be. I mean, like, the type of person we want to be, kind, loving, all the fruits of the Spirit, that should be something we're focused on, right? But I think I'll go back to the scripture shared from Proverbs yesterday about committing your ways to the Lord. Commit everything you do. It said, I think the word was whatever. Whatever you're doing, commit it to the Lord, and He will establish your plans. So I think the whole idea of, okay, I want God to be honored with this decision. How do I know if I'm honoring God with a decision? And I said, when you're in a decision, when you're facing, this whole idea of in all things. It's like in every decision, I want to know what God wants. I want to do what God wants. So should I just, in the moment, every time I'm facing a decision, take that time, say, okay, God, right now, I need your Holy Spirit to direct me and counsel me. What do I need to do? I mean, that's one option. That could
Sometimes.
that could get tiresome. That could be not timely enough. All right. So what I think in all things is about is seeing God in everything, right? So I think what we need to do, and this is what I said yesterday, is go back to just putting ourselves in a place where we're immersed in the Word of God. So we know what God says and we know what God thinks, and we are beginning to pre-decide. That's what the message was about. Pre-deciding, like in this situation, this is what I'm going to do. So in all things, I would say maybe a good landing spot for us today would be, if you're listening, to make a list of maybe your three the most difficult decisions that you deal with in your life. And maybe it's a shopping decision, a relational decision, something with work, whatever, school. And say, when this happens, this is what I'm going to do now, because I know that that's what God would want me to do. And it makes it easier. Like it's so easy when you've already decided, I'm not going to, if this happens, this is how I'm going to handle it. I mean, you can't know every situation that's going to come your way, but you can have these guiding principles for your life the more you know God. And then you see God working in those things because you're handling them the way He wants you to. And then things get, turn out better in your life. Not perfect.
I'm going to end with this thought, just because as you're kind of describing that, it's making me think about it. This whole theme of in all things, which is kind of, the heart of this podcast, but also kind of the heart of what we do, is getting people to see God in everything and walk with God in everything. And it's kind of like working out. It really is kind of like a muscle, right? That when you start going to the gym for the first time, or you start working out for the first time, or the first time in a long time, it's not easy, right? And I don't know if I'm doing this right, and my form feels weird, and I don't, and it's kind of like you don't know what you're doing, right?
Correct.
But the more you do it, the more you go, the more consistent you are with doing it, the stronger you get, the more weight you're able to do, the more things you're able to do, the longer you're able to go, all these types of things. And I think following God and walking with God in everything, in all things, is very similar, right? The more that I walk with Him, the more consistent I am with spending time with Him, with figuring out who He is, His characteristics, what He says, all these types of things. And the more I immerse myself in those types of things and I'm consistent with it, well, then the stronger I am, the more confident I am, the longer maybe I can walk with Him in my day, the more I see Him in all my decisions. All these types of things I think are benefits and byproducts of consistently being with Him. Is that true?
100%. And I think, I listening to you say that, I would say that at 52, some of the decisions that stressed me at 42 don't stress me anymore. And some of the decisions I had at 32 and 22, I'm like, those were hard back then. They're not hard now because I've made them consistently, not everything in my life, but a lot of them I've gotten to where I'm like, that's easy. I know what to do. I know what God wants from me in my life in that area. And it's that muscle memory where you're just like, I know how I'm going to respond. If somebody says this is what I'm going to do. If somebody offers this is what I'm going to say. If I have this temptation, this is the path that I can choose to not give into that temptation. So definitely. I think it's a muscle that I think gets exhausted and fatigued, but if we train it the right way, it'll be on the right track. So,
there we go. I like this. This is a good conversation. It's a good way to start this.
I think so.
This next 6 weeks, 5 weeks here at our church talking about decisions. We're going to have similar conversations here on the podcast, but they're going to be different.
Absolutely.
But this was a good way to start.
Yeah.
And so thank you so much for listening or watching. Let us know what you thought of this conversation and what you want to hear on future conversations, because we want to make this podcast what you want to listen to.
Yes.
And so give us your thoughts. Send us anything you need to podcast@sycamorecreek.org. And I think we'll be back next week.
I mean, you know that we have a plan for every week, but we would love to have some interjections there of maybe even something related to, if you heard something Sunday in a sermon, you want us to address it deeper, we can do that.
Absolutely.
So we would love to do that. So let us know. We appreciate it. Thanks again for listening.
Have a great week. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the In All Things podcast. Our challenge for you today is to send this episode to one person. Seriously, think of somebody right now that could use this conversation and send it to them. If you have any questions, feedback, or topic ideas, please send them to podcast@sycamorecreek.org, and make sure you follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Sycamore Creek Church so that you can always see what's going on in our world. If this conversation helped you at all, make sure you share it, leave a review, and subscribe so that you don't miss out on a single episode. We love you, God loves you, and we'll see you next week on the In All Things podcast.